Drunk Fish Gaming.
Hello and welcome to Drunk Fish Gaming.
I'm Fighting Drunk,
And I'm Lord Jim the Fish.
and today we're going to talk to you about the Goblin faction.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Right, so first of all, we have got Amara with her nice flamethrowers.
Very cool.
Her first ability deals 190% of magic damage to an enemy with a 50% chance to deal damage to an additional target.
But this is based on where you are at this moment in time, isn't it?
No, this is the highest level that you can get on it.
Cool.
So for all of these, we're going to be talking highest ability levels.
Cool. Yeah, and it's worth noting that it's going to take a while before you get some really good abilities. So usually it's just straight damage, but then as you start to really progress in your character, you get loads of other benefits as well. So then it really sort of mixes up your game.
Okay, so her second ability, Apocalypse Now, deals 230% of magic damage to all enemies, so slightly different from the first one, and inflicts burning for 2 turns. Burning is something that is special to Amara. We'll come to that in a minute. Third ability. So we have got a Good Seer, and this is quite a punchy ability. Deals 340% of magic damage to an enemy, plus an extra 60% of magic damage for each burning or poison stack on the target, which is an interesting one.
So perfect for your previous ability and then a combination with someone else doing poison.
Yep. So the other thing you can consider with this is burning can be applied by other characters. So Corcoran can also inflict it. Ember and Sengiel, they can all do burning. And from poison, you can see Vanessa, Venomate and Vorian will all also inflict poison. So something to think about. Can be quite good if you were to look at a squad with all of those in. And her unique ability, Entropy. So this is a passive ability and grants it to Thanessa as well. So they'll gain 5% of turn meter for each burning or poison stack on the enemies at the end of the turn. So something to really consider with the bits I mentioned previously.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting that the game then picks out the right people to actually work with in your party.
Yeah.
Because obviously, they've been doing a bit of playtesting, so know what it's all about.
Okay, so that is Amara. On to Atom.
Yeah, so Atom is a defender, so your standard tank has loads and loads of health. So Little Boom is the first one, so deals 60% damage against all enemies with a 30% chance of inflicting damage decrease for 2 turns. So I found that this is sort of middling in terms of abilities, not too much damage. It's just really, if someone's tanking it out with a taunt, Atom can do some damage to everyone, so it's fine.
So I've been using Atom in my team, and with Kiara in there who grants stealth. We'll come on to that in a later video. Atom will gain counter abilities or counter chance. His basic then is great fun because it just spams AoEs,
Everyone.
which is
Lots of damage.
all right.
So next one is the Mecha Uppercut. So this is when you want to do some serious damage to one person. So 330% of physical damage, inflicts tenacity decrease. In fact, what is tenacity decrease?
So tenacity is the sort of ability to resist detrimental effects. So
It means
where
you can
you've
then
got
put some
burning
inflictions
or
on
poison,
them.
it reduces their chance to evade that.
Yeah. So that's really quite a good one actually. That's really excellent. So this is your protective plates, where you just gain a shield equal to 40% of your max health. It just makes them super tanky.
Okay.
And this is an interesting one. So it gives Atom a 70% chance to gain taunt for 1 turn. And it's a passive ability, so it can happen randomly, which is fine. But I find that it's not particularly brilliant when you want to make sure you get that taunt in. It's a very low chance, especially early on as well. It's super low to actually get this taunt.
Yeah.
So you'll need to actually have like another defender to actually then properly take the damage away from your damage dealers.
Yeah. As Jim mentioned, the lower levels of this aren't great. This is on my account. I've got it at level 3 and I've only got a 30% chance. So not great.
No. So that's Atom. Next on to Old Law.
So this guy's got a funky looking piece of kit.
He's pretty cool.
He's looking good.
It's pretty mental.
So his first ability, Left Hook, deal 260% of physical damage to an enemy. A dazed target will receive 340% of physical damage instead. So, thinking about daze, again, Kiara is someone that can inflict daze, so you bit of synergies there. And also, Thaylane can inflict daze. So, if you looked at combining those into your squad, more daze, better potential for the higher damage. Okay, so second ability, Triple Strike. So this attacks the enemy 3 times. Each attack deals 140% of physical damage. If all 3 attacks hit, the target is dazed for 2 turns. So if all 3 attacks hit, you're dealing a lot of damage, and the daze is then going to help out on your basic attack as well.
Yeah, so you really want that daze to go down, then you come back to his first ability to really deal that 330% damage.
Yeah. Then I love the picture for this one, Preparation.
It's an magic 8 ball or something, isn't it?
It's the gear stick.
Oh, it's the gear stick, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's a random one. So Old Law gains critical chance increase, a potency increase, and an accuracy increase for 2 turns. It then recovers 50% of the turn meter.
So yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, I tend to use this one before the triple attack, because then you get saying 3 attacks with higher crit chance, accuracy, etc. Okay, and the last bit of his kit is his passive ability, Hatred for Nature. So Old Law deals 30% more critical damage for each living elf in the enemy's party.
Does not like elves.
So if you've ever got elves in your arena or tower that you need to go against, think about Old Law, because that's really going to help you out.
Them. Yeah. So that's Old Law. Next is Major Shot. So first ability is Machine Gun, so deals 220% of physical damage to the target and 60% of physical damage to all other enemies. So, you know, good sort of hit your target, then has a bit of splash damage elsewhere as well. Maybe with 60%.
I quite like that one.
Yeah, so then the little goblin that could. So deals 280% of physical damage to all enemies. Major Shot switches to battle mode. This effect cannot be prevented or removed using the ability. Again, will cancel the battle mode. Using the ability with battle mode is a 7% chance of stun for enemies within 1 turn. Again, so useful for the chat we've just seen for that, you know, synergies in terms of stunning your enemies. So yeah, so that's the little goblin that could. So Flashbang inflicts blindness on all enemies for 1 turn and healing block for 2 turns. So it can really help when you've got a very sort of weak party and you know they need to heal up and then you've just blocked that. That just sucks.
And blindness, for those that don't know, stops the enemy hitting you.
Which makes sense if you're blind. Yeah. So onto the passive ability. So recharge. So Major Shot restores 1 turns of a random ability at the start of the turn. So yeah, so that it's great to then get back, you know, one of the abilities that you thought you'd have to wait 2 or 3 turns for, but then it just comes back straight away. It's really good.
Yep.
So leadership ability. So all allied goblins deal 25% more damage if there are any members of the order in the enemy party. Upon landing a critical hit, goblins have a 50% chance to increase the cooldown of one of the enemy's abilities by 1 turn. So yeah, so you want to be fighting order with your, you know, if you had like a whole party of goblins, you want to be going towards order, and some elves in there would be good. I think that's probably your ideal enemy that you want to be fighting.
Yep. And Major Shot at the moment is the only goblin leader that is accessible, so you'll need to take advantage of this if you wanted to use pure goblins.
Yeah.
Right, so now on to Sergeant Pigwald. Again, what a character, look at that.
It's like a mobility scooter, but with a cannon on the front. It's great.
I just like the wooden tracks.
Yeah, as if they won't get broken.
Yeah. Okay, so his first ability deals 250% of physical damage to an enemy. If the target is below 50% health, deals 310% of physical damage instead. So this guy is for finishing people off.
Yeah.
Giggity. Okay, his second ability, Lock and Load. Sergeant Pigwald gains charge for 2 turns, increasing damage by 3 times. This effect cannot be prevented or removed. So
that's some serious damage.
Yeah, things that can't be dispelled is always really good, because it means he's definitely getting that benefit.
So if you're starting in a battle, you want to start with that and then move on to your cannon, or your other abilities.
Okay, his third ability is Rocket Strike. So deal 260% of physical damage to the 2 lowest health enemies. If this ability kills an enemy, it instantly refreshes.
Awesome.
So if you're getting towards the end of the battle, use this, kill an enemy. Next turn you can use it again, kill another enemy, and you could really just start spamming it, which is great fun.
Yeah, you really want to keep this guy alive for the whole battle.
Yeah. And then Ballistics, the passive ability for him. So Sergeant Pigwold gains a 30% physical damage increase and an additional 5% for each living goblin in the party. So you really want to use him with other goblins. This, on top of his high-powered attacks, is really going to make sure you finish off enemies quite quickly.
Yeah, I don't think it makes too much of a difference at the start of the battle as soon as you get this character, but later on, I think 30% can really add a fair bit of physical damage. So, Thanessa.
The healer of the goblins.
Yes, which you can tell by the fact that she's in a nurse's uniform.
Let's not talk about that.
No, let's not talk about that. So, Poison Vial. Basic ability, so deals 200% of magical damage to an enemy, applies 2 poison stacks for 2 turns. Useful with the fire. Who was the first lady we talked about? Amara, yes. That was good. Very useful together. So next is Healing Jar. So heals the targeted ally by 900% of Thanessa's magic damage. Applies debuff immunity for 2 turns as well. So very good healing spell.
So one thing that I've noticed on all healers is they heal based on magic damage. This is very different for those that have come over from Galaxy of Heroes, because that is normally based on health. So be sure to make sure that you are adding damage to your healers.
Mm-hmm. So next is Assistant. So deals 300% of magic damage to an enemy and summons 3 random allies for help. So that's quite good. You get loads and loads of damage out of that. It may not be powerful in itself, but it will be your random allies to help.
Yeah, that with Sergeant Pigwold would be quite fun.
Yes. So, Goblinology, which is her passive ability. So, Thanessa gains a 7% magic damage increase for each living goblin in the party. So, if Amara is on the battlefield, she receives the same buff. Again, this reinforces that the same sort of race types really work well together, and you get some really good synergies. And they've called out Thanessa and Amara together, but then also all these other things that help. If you're a goblin, you can cause some serious damage.
Right, so on to the final goblin, General Murdoch. And this guy looks brilliant on a flying bike.
I want one.
Yeah, I'd love to have that. Okay, so his first ability, Snare. Let's go to the highest level. So deals 260% of physical damage to an enemy and inflicts damage decrease for 2 turns. So dealing out the damage, making sure he's not taking as much back.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2. Go on, Jim.
It's a trap!
So, deals 400% of physical damage to an enemy. If the target is afflicted by slow, decreases their turn meter by 50%. That's something that you really want to have in your team. Turn meter manipulation is always great to have, because it means either you're taking more turns or they're taking less turns. Either way, damage is going to be pretty one-sided. The second bit, if the target is afflicted by a damage decrease, summon a random ally for help. So this works with his first ability really well.
Next ability?
Thing to consider is, for slow, there is actually 3 other characters in the game which can inflict slow, which will really help out for your turn meter manipulation. Those 3 are Master Duo, Freezard, and Mordoom, which we'll come on to in future videos. Right, so Freezing Trap.
Freezing Trap!
Not quite the same.
No, it's not.
I like the effort though.
I know.
So this one deals 290% of physical damage to all enemies, so another AoE within the goblins, a 70% chance to inflict slow for 2 turns. So that is going to help out with the previous ability, and think about this along with the other goblins that we've talked about earlier in the video, there's a lot of AoEs going on, so a real chance to just damage everyone at once rather than having to focus on the defenders. Right, passive ability. So General Murdoch's traps are 30% more effective against members of the Order and 60% more effective against elves.
Again, those Order and those elves. Oof.
So elves really aren't liked by goblins, apparently.
No, they don't do well against them.
I was not aware of this. Okay, and the final ability is his leader one. So this is something that is going to come later in the game. Currently, General Murdoch is inaccessible. So his leadership, all allied goblins boost their turn meter by 20% and have a 40% chance to summon a random goblin for help when dealing a critical hit. So if you think about people like Old Law and Sergeant Pigwald, they're doing a lot of critical damage. So if you mod them for a critical chance, this is really going to play a part in it. It can only be triggered once a turn though, so something to think about there. That was on ability 5. Right, so General Murdoch's leadership ability. All allied goblins boost their turn meter by 20% and have a 50% chance to summon a random goblin for help when dealing a critical hit. If you think about Sergeant Pigwald and Old Law, they're going to be doing a lot of critical damage. So if you mod them with critical chance, not mod, ruin them for critical chance, that is really going to help trigger this, though it can only be triggered once per turn. So don't expect multiple assists with this. Right, so that's the end of our Goblin video. We hope you liked. If you did, please drop us a like, comment, and if you do enjoy our videos, please subscribe.
And hit that notification bell.
Of
so
course.
you know when our videos come out as soon as they happen.
Right, thanks everyone, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.